Living in Virginia, you're in the fast lane on the information superhighway. We've invested $3 billion in Virginia's broadband network to give you one of the fastest internet connection speeds in the world, so you can build relationships, bring new business to our state, and meet the future of education. It's amazing what we can do together. Visit VCTA.com to learn how broadband connects the Commonwealth.
From the General Assembly and the City of Richmond, I'm Woody Evans for Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Comcast, connecting Virginians to their government. We're pleased to have one of the new delegates from Northern Virginia with us, Delegate Ayala. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Woody. Thank you.
We were talking earlier about your campaign, how you got involved in politics, what you anticipated happening, and now you're here.
Now I'm here.
Tell us a little bit about that road you traveled to get to Richmond, Virginia.
I don't know if you have enough time, but it was a long journey. You know, it begins with one step. I would say it was an interesting step. You know, you give up your job. I'm a single mother of two, and I'm a cybersecurity specialist. I've been doing that for the last 17 and a half years, and I had some things that I needed to reconsider given the election of President Trump. I didn't agree with his policies. I didn't agree with the way he treated individuals in America, specifically things that he has said, his policies he wanted to implement to discriminate against our LGBT, our Muslim community, people of color, women, and there's a list that could go on. But I knew that this year it was important that our voices be heard. So when I turned in my resignation to my boss, I did it sobbing, and I said, I'm going to give you my resignation. And he just said, are you crazy? What are you going to do for health insurance? All of the gravity of disconnecting that security blanket to run for office was really overwhelming. So that was the first 30 days of my journey. I think I spent it very ill, and the anxiety level was very high. But I knew I was doing the right thing.
Had you ever been involved in politics before?
Mm-hmm. I am the first woman of diverse background to start an advocacy group for women in my district, which is Prince William County. So I cover the 51st, which is Prince William, Lake Ridge, the Lake Ridge area, Manassas, and a little bit of Dale City. And it was the National Organization for Women chapter, which advocates for women and families, especially across the Commonwealth. I served at the state level, and I was appointed to Governor McAuliffe's Council on Women, and also was advocating for issues that impact women and families. So that was one part of my life, and the other part was advocating with candidates that were running for office, you know, supporting them. I did that in the first Obama race in '08, and have been doing that ever since on local races, statewide races. So I was very passionate about, you know, making sure we help our people.
So I assume you were involved in the Women's March
Yes.
a year ago.
Yep, I helped organize that for the state of Virginia with other organizational leadership. It was nothing that was structured. It was very organic. We all came together, you know, sold T-shirts, buttons, whatever we could to pay for buses so that individuals could get to the march and be a part of it. After the election of Donald Trump, I think everybody had the same collective fear, what has just happened and what will happen.
And I take it it's a lot easier to organize people with the internet these days.
Social media was great, but you had people from all walks of life that were not connected. You know, you'd hand out flyers. We would work through their children who had social media, you know, or you know, other relatives that had social media, and the word just spread. It just went viral. I mean, you've seen the outcome of the Women's March.
Sure. So tell us a little bit more about your campaign, your district in particular in terms of your constituency, the demographics there.
It's very diverse. We also have a diverse community of working class, you know, neighbors and family members. They work from, they're in industries such as government, military, teachers. A lot of them are, you know, some healthcare workers, some just like me in technology, but that would fall into the government or military category. So we have a high populace of those types of individuals or those types of careers in our district.
So I take it you knocked on a lot of doors.
Lots of doors, a lot of shoes, soles, a lot of rubber burned. But it was nothing that I've never done before. I've worked the district before for presidential races and other campaigns, and it was important. I had just came off the Hillary Clinton campaign, less than a few months when I started my own. And people still remember, hey, were you not just here? What's going on?
So what were some of the issues that you tried to highlight during the campaign?
Medicaid.
Okay.
I was a recipient of social services. I was on public assistance. I was on Medicaid. Medicaid saved my son's life. He was born with complications. I had complications before he was born during my pregnancy that were sometimes life-threatening, and I had no insurance. I was working retail. I was working 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet, and also with the understanding that I had to find money to take care of this unborn child. And then I had some medical conditions that I just could not afford, and was able to obtain Medicaid, and it was life-saving to both of us. There was times where my son, for the first 60 days of his life, was in the hospital every day, and sometimes that impacted my employment, and wasn't able to really, you know, pay for anything, or, you know, in fear of losing your job, because he was so sick, he was so challenged. But we were able to stabilize him, and, you know, I'm thankful that Medicaid was there. Otherwise, I don't know what would have happened to him. So Medicaid, you know, was a very important topic, not just for my perspective, but for those who live in my district. You know, it's imperative.
So I think that this expansion debate here in Virginia that's been going on for 8 years now has at least a much better chance of passing the General Assembly this year, given the makeup of the House of Delegates in particular.
Yes, it's a human rights issue. When you have people that have to choose between paying their mortgage and getting the medical treatments that they need, that is a huge problem. There should not be that decision, you know, am I going to lose my house, or do I buy my medicine that I need to survive every day? Or, you know, maybe it's a child with a pre-existing condition that needs services every day or support every day, or a veteran, you know, who relies on Medicaid in order to provide their health care and health care needs. So we are in a state of, why does this have to be a debate in 2018, 2017, 2016, when this is a humanitarian issue and also a crisis? When you're talking about taking away human health care services, you're basically giving them a sentence, you know, to either not be able to survive, you know, for the Medicare or Medicaid medical needs that they have to have, or that, you know, their conditions can worsen and then it can be grave. So I don't think that this is a debate. I think this should be a non-issue. This should be common sense. We need to really pass Medicaid, and this is what we're put in office to do, is to help people live and thrive and have the best opportunity possible. And Medicaid is not just to treat those with, you know, conditions, but it's to prevent. It's preventative, and this would be a cost savings not only to, you know, our taxpayers, but to the community members and to the people that this impacts. You know, if they're able to take care of themselves and do the daily necessity treatments or go to the necessary medical appointments for self-care and health care, then, you know, you are doing taking preventative measures so that their conditions don't worsen. And I know I don't have to, you know, lay that out. We know that health care and health care insurance is a necessity, and it's not just to use when you, you know, are sick, even though that's the way we think of it, but it's also preventative. And it would be a grave injustice if our General Assembly did not come together, bringing Virginia together and say, we have a heart, we care, we want the best for you.
It's kind of interesting because, of course, some of the words from the Declaration of Independence, which talk about the pursuit of happiness, can't be done if you are unhealthy.
You're not happy. You know, I don't know anybody that walks around that says, I don't want health care. I don't know anyone that says, I was afraid. When I was uninsured, that was an anxiety. I lived daily in stress, wondering when I left my job to run for office, I had no insurance. I couldn't even afford to get into the market. I couldn't afford Medicaid. We didn't qualify. And my son's medications were $300.
Wow.
He has pre-existing conditions that we rely on insurances to supplement and pay, and the cost was astronomical. And I was very fearful. I was like, what have I done? Am I doing the right thing?
Right.
And I believe that this is how people live, not having health insurance for much more of a longer time than I've been without it, you know, just running for office or in my previous experiences.
And of course, what we're talking about in terms of expansion is expanding it to individuals who are working, who don't otherwise qualify now, but would if it would be expanded.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, this should be an incentive for the General Assembly to say, hey, we need to restore the heartbeat of Virginia. If we say Virginia's for lovers, it should also be for love, for care, for opportunity, for support. You know, I joke sometimes, and I said my fellow Republicans say they're pro-lifers. Well, this means you're pro-life. This is the quality of life that we're talking about. This can't be just subject to political debate or points or just centralized issues. This is where your pro-life stance should stand, along with our pro-choice. This is our constituents. These are the people you have to look at every day and say, I voted against you, if you do not vote for Medicaid expansion.
Yet I think people don't realize as well that a lot of people on Medicaid are children. They're also the elderly.
Yes.
Those who can't afford anything, even though they may have Medicare, they're dual eligible for both Medicare and Medicaid. And they wind up in care facilities.
Yes.
And Medicaid takes care of that. Medicare does not.
We have 400,000 Virginians that are looking to the General Assembly this year, and not only saying get it together, but get a heart. Pass Medicaid expansion. You know, 400,000, 1,200 alone in my district. And in Prince William alone, it's about, and that's what part of my district encompasses, the county of Prince William, that over 15,000 constituents. That's not one, that's not two, 15,000, 400,000. That is a huge astronomical number, and they're all looking to us. I don't know what the issue is, but I think that we need to collectively get it together, vote for what is right, do what is right. This should be a nonpartisan issue.
And of course, we haven't even touched upon mental health issues, for example, and also the opioid crisis.
Yes, sir. My family has been impacted by both. Recently, I lost a family member. He had health insurance and was able to get care, but you know the impact of mental health and the severity that people are struggling, whether it's depression or other mental health challenges that they may have. It is absolutely necessary that we support our community members. And it goes back to what you're saying, the pursuit of happiness. We should be doing whatever it takes to help every Virginian survive, have the opportunity for happiness, equality, success possible, whatever we can do to afford that to them. That's what we're here for. It's not about us. It's about we the people.
Tell us a little bit about the orientation that was afforded the new members of the House of Delegates.
I think that day was a blur. You know, it's like, you're elected, now let's get to business. And we have that, you know, that's a collective thought. You know, it's, hey, you're here. And you're like, oh God, I'm here. And you're looking around and you're like, these are the halls of Madison and Jefferson.
Right.
And you go through that dialogue in your head and it's overwhelming. It was truly, I think I cried for the first 30 minutes, and the guy was like, it's just orientation, we're going over, you know, some of the paperwork. I was like, you just don't understand the sacrifices that a lot of us made to get here. It's not to say, oh, we did it, you know, this is a bragging part of our journey, but this is to say, this is how much Virginia meant to us to get here. And I think just the gravity of that just came to a screeching halt and dropped right there on day one. I think our clerk of the court became a helpful therapist versus, you know, doing the instructional piece. But we were welcomed, which was great. We were given the information we need to succeed, which was amazing. And we have such a supportive team here in the General Assembly, from the clerk of the court's office to, you know, individuals that just help us with day-to-day operations. And I'm humbled that we have this much support. It feels that we are now coming together collectively to say we want you to succeed, because when we succeed, our constituents can succeed.
And of course, there was a lot of uncertainty just a few days before the General Assembly convened because of the situation in Hampton Roads, and then the day before, the situation in Stafford County and Fredericksburg.
Yeah, we had some electorate challenges. We're going to do better, I believe. I have that, you know, hope that we will do better. I know that Josh Cole and Shelley Simons are passionate fighters for our community. They're just as passionate as I am, if not more so. And I believe that they'll be elected in the next cycle. They're not going to give up the fight, and we can't give up the fight, and we can't give up hope.
And Josh Cole was the Democratic nominee from Stafford, Fredericksburg, and Shelley Simons was from Hampton Roads.
Yes, sir.
Correct? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now, what about your committee assignments? What committees of jurisdiction have you been assigned to?
Well, finance. So we have to find the money to fund all these wonderful programs or legislation that comes up for a vote. And also science and technology, which is probably obvious given my cybersecurity background. I hope to enrich the lives of our community members, you know, putting forth my expertise or opinions and insights to the world of cyber. I'm the first elected official to be a cybersecurity specialist. So this is going to be an interesting year.
Now, every day we notice on the agenda there's a meeting of the Democratic caucus, meeting of the Republican caucus. Does the entire General Assembly, except formally when they meet on the floor to debate and take votes, ever meet together to discuss issues and become more collegial?
It happens every day, you know. Yes, we go to our prospective party, gatherings or meetings in the morning to review, you know, or discuss some of our concerns from a party perspective. But when you get on the floor, you are called the body for a reason. It is a collective. And despite some of our, and maybe I'm a little naive, but I'm hopeful and optimistic, but despite some of our legislation differences or views, we talk, we communicate, and we look to make change. And so we're hoping that we can, you know, add value to the arguments or the discussions and maybe change a heart or two.
Now, of course, you've come into the 2018 session where there have been a lot of changes, most notably transparency, especially in terms of committee coverage and subcommittee coverage. That's obviously a really good thing from your perspective.
Absolutely, there should be transparency in government. But we also have to remember too that we're being filmed, and there's if you put on some lip gloss or if you do some animated facial expression, it's caught on TV. And so we have to be mindful of that. You know, the pendulum swings both ways. You know, this is what we call for, and this is what could happen or be captured. So we are always mindful of that and try to put our best foot forward.
But at least now there will be recorded votes, especially in subcommittee, because a lot of bills had been killed in subcommittee before you arrived here without any recorded votes whatsoever.
We need to be accountable. We're a representative of our people that we have been elected by and from the districts that we derive from. And that should always be in the forefront of our minds, that we are representing the entire community, not just some, but all. And that transparency helps. You know, you can't hide behind, you know, smoke and mirrors. Oh, you know, I didn't vote for that, or even though you can see it on record, it shows you voting, you know. So yes, I'm in support of that transparency, because we are in a state, our nation is in a state of untrust. You know, we have concerns about just the path or the direction that we're going. And so this may be helpful to some, and some may not have an opinion about it, and some may not like it. But I think this is where we bring integrity to the forefront.
You talked a little bit about some of the things that are going on in Washington, D.C. The Commonwealth has fared all right the last few years economically. It's still highly dependent upon the largesse of the federal government, so to speak. Obviously, there's a budget dispute in Washington now. How is the economy in Prince William County affected about what happens in Washington in terms of economic matters?
Well, if we don't fund the budget, and I was a part of the last sequestration, I can tell you from a personal experience that a lot of our government workers, military workers, contract workers, it was cumbersome and worrisome for us. You don't get paid. I forget, it lasted between 2 and 3 weeks. I was very afraid. I didn't know how long it was going to last, and the anxiety and the worry that you live with. And everything just comes to a screeching halt. You don't know if you have a job. I hope that our president looks at that impact, not just from a political standpoint, but the human impact that it has on everyday lives. You are taking away our funding. You're taking away our bread and butter, our ability to pay for school, our ability to pay for groceries, to put gas in our car, to put clothes on our children's back, to buy medicines that we may need, because you guys in Washington can't get it together. I have a problem with that, and that's why we're here. Everyday working people like myself, who may not have been considered the politician or had grew up in a poli-sci background or have that expertise. Our expertise is people. We know what our people need and should have at their fingertips. And we should not be playing politics with people's money or health. That is just a given. And I would say to our president to look at that, look at those issues and have a heart. And we need to continue to fight like hell to make sure that we take care of our people. You may not agree with everything I say or do, but no, for everything that I do, that the people are at the forefront of my mind, because I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to be fearful of when my next paycheck comes in. This should not happen, ever.
So I take it you have a number of constituents who commute into Washington because that's where their jobs are.
Yep.
So transportation obviously is an issue that your constituents and you are interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about some of the transportation needs you see, especially in your district.
Oh my gosh, do you have time? No. Well, you know, we have challenges. We have hubs like routes like Route 28, 66, I-95. Washington Post did an article sometime this past summer to talk about Northern Virginia community traffic. They talk about that this is going to, escalate over the next 5 to 10 years if we don't do something about it. I think the figure, don't quote me on this, well, you are going to quote me on this, but $2.3 billion over the next decade or so, that we have a real issue. And we do. The populace is growing. We need to look at mass transit options, more commuting options. I know that we have the express lanes, and for 95 at least, they're working. They're costly, so we need to look at that. But we need to also look at Metro. As you're going into the southern parts of Virginia, like my county, Prince William County, we don't have Metro. We have challenges with VRE. We have what they call PRTC, which does like the OmniLink buses or commuter buses, and then community buses, but they only run certain times. And sometimes, our working families may not be able to have access to those. So we need to look at our current infrastructure, revisit that, and improve it, or see what we can do to improve it. And it just becomes every day an increasing nightmare for us. You can't go 15 minutes down the road. If you can do that, that's a miracle. You thank God every day, you know. You're appreciative of that, but you know it's possible. But when you can't do this on
Sure.
Monday through Friday during those commuting times, it's a quality of life. I'm spending 2 hours away from my family, going one way, and 2 hours away from my family coming home, missing important parts of family options or opportunities, activities, and it's challenging.
So car, rail, including metro, bus, are all important components of that transportation.
Absolutely. We have the manpower and the brain power here in Richmond to come up with a viable solution, and that's what we should do. It's a no-brainer for me.
Now, what about education in your district? How are your K through 12 schools doing?
We have a great school system. You know, there's always room for improvement. We need to start paying our teachers more. In my county alone, our teachers are paid $10,000 less than the adjacent jurisdictions, or up to $10,000 less, and $7,500 less than the national average. Our teachers who live, play, and sometimes work in our community can't survive on that. If I can go just 20 minutes down the street to another community or another county, 20 minutes is probably, you know, a little bit of an exaggeration.
Right.
Because an hour down the street for $15,000 more, that's what I'm going to do. And Prince William needs to look at that. We need to look at our community and say, look, we need to keep the talent here. We need to keep the support and that infrastructure here. Our teachers are buying their own supplies. I've been part of the PTO. I was a president for one of the elementary schools, and I'm watching teachers dig into their own pockets to pay for supplies. I've introduced a bill that would give teachers a tax credit, up to $250 annually, starting in 2019, because they're taking money out of their own pockets to buy school supplies. With my organization groups that I've done, we've supplied over $30,000 working with GSA to Title I schools who have challenges. So, you know, we know what the current issues are in our community and our districts. We need to support our children to have every afforded opportunity to education and to be successful at it. And also our teachers, who are the ones that spend 8 hours a day with our children. And they are our resource to the opportunities that our kids will have for their future.
30 seconds left, but a plug for kids in our junior colleges who want to pursue cybersecurity.
Yes, do it. Take it up. It is a fantastic field. You'll learn so much about cyber, which seems to be this big world of ether. Nobody knows what's in it. And it offers great paying jobs. And I thank the governor, Terry McAuliffe, for his initiatives in cybersecurity. Take advantage of it.
Thank you for being here, Delegate Ayala. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Woody.
Thank you for watching Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Comcast. Until next time, I'm Woody Evans. Mm-hmm.